"Don't forget Elvis," Greg said jokingly. "I never forget Elvis," Susan replied, slightly annoyed. "I can take it with me throughout the house, but when I go to bed, it's always there." "Look after me." She was too old to take him to bed, so she put him in his usual place, facing the bed. The remaining shelves and cabinets were filled with framed photographs and souvenirs, but no other plush toys. In fact, on that wall, Elvis was the only thing that truly belonged to her. Susan had had it since childhood, and she did not want to part with it. When she was 7 and he was falling apart, she made him a white suit. It had a high collar, flared pants, and tiny sequins. She wasn't skilled enough to sew clothes to fit, so she was sewn to his body. And this was better because it kept him intact. Previously, he was Edward, but the day the outfit was ready, he was renamed. Elvis watched them get into bed. "The next time we go to the cabin, I'll fix the dock." "He's wobbly," Greg said. "You said that last time," she replied. "I know, but last time I forgot my tools." "Do you mind going alone?" "Thought you liked staying in the cabin." "To be honest, I'm already a little tired of her." "Sorry." Greg inherited the cabin from his grandfather, as did the house in Southport. My grandfather was a moderately successful author of novels set in the Lake District. He built a hut with royalties from his first book. Then, when he finished the manuscripts of subsequent novels, he retired to the hut for final editing. He said that he liked peace and quiet. The hut was located on the southern shore of Devoke Water, which, at a mile long, was the largest of the Cumbrian high glacial lakes. The house is insulated and has running water, but electricity is supplied by a petrol generator, and heating is provided by a wood stove. There was also a tiny boathouse just big enough for a rowing boat. The road to Eskdale passes through Burker Fell. Just south of Eskdale itself, there is a place where you can park your car. From there, you need to cross the road and walk to Devoke Water. While staying there, Greg and Susan enjoyed their solitude. The only people they saw were the occasional fishermen or other tourists. Greg has always led a comfortable lifestyle. By inheritance from his family, he was given 2 small but successful businesses. Wool and shipbuilding continued to flourish in Cumbria. These days, he only looks there occasionally, traveled to London more often to meet with family accountants and lawyers. They met Susan at the Royal Birkdale Golf Club. Greg had just enjoyed 18 holes, and Susan was tending the bar. He was completely blown away. At their wedding, there were raised eyebrows and whispers that barmaids were not suitable for the Clifford family. But she is 12 years younger than him. But Greg shrugged it off. By Clifford standards, Susan was ordinary, but she was sexy and full of fun. Either way, the family estate would end up going to their children, not her. They stayed at the hut 5 or 6 times a year. Susan enjoyed the peace and quiet, but could have done without walking. The paths were never dry. And lately, the loneliness began to tire her. A return to nature is, of course, good, but a TV would be nice. Jack Ducker, a local resident and family friend, would sometimes come here and look after the house. To help him, Greg bought him his first cell phone. They had been married for almost 3 years, and Susan was bored. When she was single, she never had any money, but she seemed to have a lot more fun. She hoped that her children would satisfy her, but they had no luck so far. They recently underwent an examination, which showed that Greg does not have any problems. But Susan was prescribed a course of additional hormones. One day she overheard Greg discussing this on the phone with a family member. The phrase, "I'm sure she's good breeding material," stuck in her head. He may have been protective of her in his own way, but he said she looked like a horse. It didn't give her any peace. What will he do if she can't get pregnant? Greg was an only child, the last of his generation to bear the surname Clifford. The family would be furious if a simple barmaid inherited everything, so children were a necessity. She secretly went for additional examinations. Then, one Thursday, the fateful call came. "Hello, Mrs. Clifford. This is Birkdale Fertility Clinic. Do you agree to receive results by phone? Or would you rather meet with a specialist?" "Everything is fine. Tell me now, please." "I'm afraid I have bad news. We have rechecked your results, and I am sorry to tell you that you are infertile. Oh no, is IVF suitable? Sorry, but it won't work. So it's either adoption or nothing. I'm afraid so. Should I send you the results by mail? No thanks. I'll pick them up next time I'm in town. It was a serious blow. While the kids didn't show up, she and Greg discussed various possibilities. And at a time when their problems were about to soon resolve themselves, Greg said he was not interested in adoption. Susan was afraid that he might now divorce her. He introduced her to another world, a world of privilege. But now Susan was not sure that she had ever truly loved him. She wasn't cut out to be one of those ladies who attend dinners. This way of life weighed on her. Yes, she has money, but she doesn't have many friends her age. The only friend she still talked to was Dee. If Susan couldn't ask her for advice from time to time, she would go crazy. Greg is a good person, but Susan has reached a dead end. She did not want to give up the trappings of wealth and at the same time did not really want the husband who came with them. But she will have a bad time with the divorce. She brought nothing to this marriage except hope for children. Susan was sure that adoption would not suit him. It would dilute the family line or something like that. She realized that she married him for his money and security. Not the most pleasant thought, but it's true. And if she cannot produce children to inherit, her position may become untenable. Greg is still young enough to find someone fertile. She married to escape a life of poverty. Now he can return there. The best outcome would be if Greg died soon. Then she can receive her inheritance and enjoy wealth on her own terms. Susie read somewhere that there is a fine line between love and hate. If she doesn't love Greg, then she must learn to hate him. Then it won't be difficult for her to kill him. She needs two things. First of all, more reasons to hate Greg. Secondly, a plan to get rid of it, perhaps with an accomplice. There was a knock on the door. A man in overalls, holding a tray in his hand, said, "Delivery for Mr. Clifford." On a tray that looked more like a shallow plastic box were half a dozen twitching crabs. "Sorry, I need to pick up the box, madam. Could you please bring a bucket of water?" Susan did so, and the guy knocked them over into the water. She noticed that their claws were held together with rubber bands, so that they don't attack each other, he said, as if reading her thoughts. "You can keep the rubber bands. How long will they last in this state?" "A couple of days. Longer if you have a section in the refrigerator with a temperature of 0 degrees. She took the bucket to the kitchen. It's typical of Greg to organize something without consulting her. She had a vague idea that crabs should be steamed, but didn't know where to start. A wave of rebellion flared up within her. Fuck it, they can eat them tomorrow. She hadn't eaten potato casserole with meat for a long time and was going to make it tonight. It's time to eat something she likes. How delicious, Susan," he said. "Did you prepare it?" "Certainly. Did you bring fresh crabs?" "Yes. Where are they?" "I flushed them down the toilet." His face painted a picture. Did he really imagine that she was capable of such a thing? "Kidding. They are in the kitchen in a bucket of water. It will be nice if you steam them. Or you can invite a chef." "Certainly. When we're done, I'll put them in the 0-degree compartment of the refrigerator. By the way, do you know the last part of making potato casserole with meat when you finish it in the oven?" "Yes." "Well, if we ever eat it again, why not try putting a layer of grated cheese on top?" Susan felt herself getting even angrier. Potato casserole might have been a common dish only for someone like him, but she knew how to make it. And she didn't need that damn cheese on top, and it didn't escape her that Greg said, "If we ever eat it again." She grabbed Elvis from the kitchen counter and returned him to her cubbyhole before going to bed. When Greg came to bed, she rejected his advances. This is not the time of the month to make babies. Better save yours. Okay, hatred for him began to form. Well, hostility anyway. But probable candidates for murder accomplices, as far as she knew, were not common in the circles in which they moved. Who is it among those below her on the social scale who can be persuaded, even seduce? "While you're away," she said the next morning, "I'll go into town and fix my laptop." He's acting up again. Go to Netflix. They do their job well there. I'm coming. No, why don't you try? Just go. Susan has already decided to use their services. She thought one of their employees was clumsy. If there is such a thing as a nerd with muscles, this is it. She climbed into her Mercedes SL 500 Roadster. As soon as she was in town, the first thing she did was call Netflix. What can I do for you, Mrs. Clifford? She had always disliked the manager, who was more irritable than polite. Oh, last time I had problems, this young man helped me a lot. I'm sure he will do a good job again. This is Roger, the manager said reluctantly. She joined Roger at his workbench. Before we begin, may I offer you some coffee, Mrs. Clifford? Please call me Susan. Yes, with pleasure. Okay, Susan. Milk and sugar. Just a little milk, please. It was probably instant, and she didn't drink the drink again, but she liked Roger, and the coffee would brighten up the visit. She placed the computer on the workbench. The surface was slightly dirty, so she pulled up another chair to place her purse on. It was Fendi, more expensive than a laptop. Standing, she collided with Roger, forgetting how quickly she could drink a cup of instant tea. She screamed as hot Nescafe poured all over her Coco Chanel t-shirt. She left the house without a bra, and Roger, who already couldn't take his eyes off her breasts, now gawked at them. She pinched her t-shirt and pulled it off. "Crap, I am so sorry," he said. Then he covered his mouth with his hand. "Sorry, idiot!" the manager shouted. Susan regained her composure. "It's okay. It's completely my fault." She turned to Roger. "Could you take me to your bathroom?" Roger led her to the back of the store. "Can I offer you anything?" "Another shirt, please." Susan took hers off and wet it under the tap. Then I used it to wash the sticky coffee stains off my chest. The door opened and Roger appeared. He handed her the shirt and stared at her, topless in the mirror. She turned and met his gaze. "Looks like you reached the finish line again faster than I expected." She was proud of that phrase and smiled when his face turned even redder. He mumbled another sorry and, to his credit, looked her in the eyes. Then he retreated, leaving her with a large gray t-shirt with the company logo in her hands. Returning to his workbench, he still looked confused. "Your phone rang while you were changing clothes," he said. Susan looked. It was just Greg, probably checking on her. She ignored him. Would you like some more coffee? Do you have a lunch break, Roger?" "Yes, in about half an hour." "What is the manager's name?" "Mr. Braugham." "Mr. Braugham, I need to take my shirt to the dry cleaner. Is it okay if Roger comes with me and we have a coffee at Costa? I'll explain my computer problems to him and then go home. He can call me when it's fixed." "Of course, Mrs. Clifford." As soon as she described the problems, the seduction took off. Dry cleaning isn't the most romantic setting, but it'll do. "Will you work tomorrow, Roger?" "No, I have a day off this Saturday." "Are you doing anything special?" "Not really." "Susan." "Then how about this? I have a couple of errands to run in town, then I'll go home and call your Mr. Braugham. I'll tell him that you were a real gentleman and I want you to fix my laptop." "Great. When you're done, take it home with you. Then, tomorrow, come here and pick up my shirt. Bring her and my laptop into the house and your debt will be paid. He doesn't actually owe her anything. But if he thinks he does, it will make her position stronger." She paid the receptionist and gave Roger the receipt. "No problem." "Fine. My husband is out playing golf before 9, so why don't you jump up after 9:15? "Certainly. My address is in your files, but just in case, I'll give you my mobile number. When you arrive, we can test your laptop on site." At Costa's dry cleaners, Susan leaned back and pulled on her t-shirt, studying the logo upside down. Her nipples stood on end. "Netflix," she drawled. "Do you like working there?" "So far, so good, but I'm taller than them." "In what sense?" Now, in familiar territory, he sounded more confident. "They just have work experience. I'm saving money to start my own business. Same as Netflix, but at a higher level. And I will make things, not just repair them." Roger was describing one of his gadgets when something he said caught her attention. Now I call it just a gizmo, and it looks kind of rough. And what is she doing? You enter the room, press a button, and direct the device in a circle. It beeps and lights up red if there is anything electrical. And the beep gets faster the closer you get to it. You will be able to determine if there are bugs there. You know, spy bugs, not insects. I think I saw something similar in the film. Yes, but mine is better. It even beeps if the device is turned off, but instead, you get a yellow light. Listen, could you bring it tomorrow? Show me your thing and maybe I'll show you mine. Fine. Either he didn't get the hint or his blush was now under control. She looked down at her breasts. Well, now you've seen them. So what do you think? He blushed again. She wondered how far she could take him. What could he be willing to do for more? Or for money to start your own business? You are very beautiful, he purred. Thank you. Although I'm sure that such a handsome young man like you has prettier girls. I don't have a girlfriend. But you must have seen enough breasts. No, not as beautiful as yours. How nice. Do a good job on my laptop and I might show them to you again. At the fertility clinic, Susan introduced herself at the reception desk. Oh, you came to fix our computer? No, I borrowed this shirt. I'm Mrs. Clifford, and I've come to collect my test results. Mrs. Clifford, of course. We talked to you on the phone. Returning to the house, she found that Mrs. Fryer had arrived and went inside. Susan wished she had knocked. It's normal that the cook has a key, but it was impolite to just enter. She had already mentioned this to Greg, but he didn't think it was a problem. I heard you have a problem with steam crabs. Where are they? Here, Susan answered, opening the refrigerator. Oh my God, not a very good start. You should have kept them in a bucket of water. In fact, she did a great job and soon Susan was admiring the delicious-looking crab salad. Looks good. Greg will be home any minute. I'll wait for him. No, he won't like it. He's having lunch at the golf club and asked me to put the salads in the fridge for the evening. Said you might have to make do with the last casserole. Luckily, Mrs. Fryer left before Susan could answer. She was furious. Have to. Arrogant bastard. So he's calling the cook about his dinner plans, not me, she muttered out loud. And organized today's food. She ate the rest of the cold potato casserole. Then Dee called and poured her heart out to her, but without mentioning the murder. Finally, I called Roger. What are you doing this evening? Do you mind if an elderly woman joins you? No, you should drop by tomorrow. She was still furious when Greg walked in. How dare you tell Mrs. Fryer about our eating routine and not tell me? What? I was just trying to help. I called you on your mobile, but you didn't answer. Susan ignored it. I felt like such an idiot expecting you to come and have lunch with me. And this stupid woman who knew that you were in the club simply mocked me. I'm sure that's not true. You weren't here. You're never here. This is unfair. She went upstairs, leaving Greg sitting and looking at his salad. When I returned, he was still there. Where are you going? Walking with a friend. And you're dressed like that? Susan looked at herself. Okay, this skirt is the shortest and the heels are the highest. And the lilac blouse is quite transparent, emphasizing the absence of a bra. What's wrong with the way I'm dressed? These are just clothes. I have worn them before. She didn't wear it without me. So now you have to inspect my clothes before letting me go outside? Would you like me to lift my skirt so you can check if I'm wearing panties? Maybe I'm naked here. Don't be so rude. And there is no need to be dramatic. You can wear what you like. It was just a remark. He stared at her chest. Not the first man to do this today. It's cold outside, Susan. You'll freeze. I have a coat. Where are you going? Why should I tell you? You don't tell me where you are all day. Very good. With whom? With Dee. A car horn sounded outside. This is my taxi. Is there something wrong with your car? No, but we'll probably have a little drink. but I've never played billiards before." "It's okay," said Roger. "I'll teach you." "Why is it so quiet here? The main bar is full of people. There's a snooker league team in this pub, but it's all mixed up. They usually play midweek, but today they have an away match." "Ah." Greg threw the last salad in the trash. He told Mrs. Fryer countless times that he didn't like tomatoes, but she never remembered. Or perhaps she remembered, but just didn't agree. Today was not the best day. Susan hadn't been in a good mood lately, but he didn't know why. I thought about her offer to look under her skirt. Was this a bluff? Of course she didn't go out without panties. With your left hand, spread your fingers like this, forming a stable bridge. Roger took her wrist. Like this? Yes. And with your right hand hold the thick end of the cue, strong. His right hand wrap it around her. "Are you sure that this is the cue I'm holding?" He breathed into her ear, and she suspected that it was his arousal touching her skirt. Greg wandered around the bedroom, not quite sure what he was looking for. In the bathroom, he took a cellophane package out of the trash can. Crotchless tights. His wife went outside without a bra, wearing pantyhose without a crotch. Then, against his better judgment, he looked in the laundry basket, where he discovered a gray Netflix t-shirt. He pulled it out and smelled it. It smelled like Susan. Elvis sat on the tank and watched him. "Do you know anything about this?" asked Greg. "I think you want to teach me billiards so you can paw me with your hands. A different type of pool would be more suitable for this. I'll teach you how to swim breaststroke. Insolent bastard. Why do I have to bend over so much? To properly line up your shot, your chin should touch the cue. Why do you have to lean so close to me?" "To make sure I put you in the best position," Roger replied. His confidence grew. "You just want me to bend over so people can look under my skirt. There's no one here to look in. But if that bothers you, I can protect your short skirt from prying eyes." "How?" He let go of her hands and stood right behind her. Then, hugging her waist, he pressed his crotch against her. "There's something hard pressing against my butt. This is my thing. You can take it home tonight if you want. Take me home too. I'll press something else to your ass." He took the bait. Downstairs, Greg poured himself a glass of Aberlour. "What's happening? Is there really any reason to be suspicious?" He picked up the phone. "Di, how are you?" "Oh, hi, Greg. I'm fine. And you?" "To be honest, I'm a little worried about Susan. I know that you girls are like friends. Is there anything I should know?" "Sisterhood, Greg, I cannot tell you. But no, it's okay, as far as I know. Perhaps you should come over for lunch soon. She always feels better after talking to you." "With pleasure." They said goodbye. So Dee is home, but Susan is not with her. Otherwise, she would know about it. She left looking like a fallen woman and lied about where she would be. Roger wanted to get in a taxi with her. "You can drop me off on the way." Susan decided that the flirting had gone far enough for one evening. Therefore, she said that he would have to walk home. But to maintain his interest, she kissed him goodnight. A long, wet kiss. "See you tomorrow." On Saturday morning, Greg was restless and looked in the laundry basket again. At least Susan wore panties last night, albeit black ones. They were lying there along with the crotchless tights. He went to the golf course. Susan stood up and took a quick shower. Last night was so much fun, she couldn't remember the last time she'd been in a proper pub. Roger responded to her flirting and made advances as well, but he kept his distance. He was due to arrive any moment, so she left her hair damp and pulled on another t-shirt and her shortest shorts. "Come in, Roger. Do you have a hangover?" "Nope, I need more beer. Here are your things." "Great. I'll check the shirt first." She unwrapped it from the dry cleaning bag and took off the one she was wearing. Roger glanced down at her bare breasts again. This time he was grinning instead of blushing. She pulled it on and stood in front of the mirror. Then she ran her hands along the front. "Come here for a minute." He stood behind and looked at their reflections. "I feel some harshness right here, where I managed to pour the coffee. What do you say?" Susan grabbed his hands and placed them on her chest. "Is it still tough?" He ran his hands up and down the material, returning to her breasts and pinching the mounds. "It's definitely tough out here," he said. "Me too." In terms of foreplay, it wasn't much, but she decided it was best to take it slow.